Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to talk about how we can utilize technical communities to drive innovation inside a company. My name is Luca Ferocino, and I'm a senior software engineer at Bloomberg, where I mostly focus on cloud infrastructure. But I'm also an active member of our internal Python community, where I look after the management of these kinds of events, so conferences in the EMEA region. I'm then joined here by my colleague, Olga.
Hi, everyone. My name is Olga Matoula, and I'm a senior software engineer at Bloomberg, where I work in our messaging application, specifically in our chatbots infrastructure team. I'm also a member of our internal Python community, where I look after inner source software and how to make it more successful.
Okay, so in this talk, we're going to try and share some of the success stories that we've had at Bloomberg in pretty much building an environment where communities are not just the incubators, but actually they become the catalyst of technology innovation. First of all, a bit of context on what Bloomberg is and what it does. Most of you probably know Bloomberg from our media services, like Bloomberg TV and Bloomberg News. But yeah, that's a big part of our business. But at its core, Bloomberg is actually a technology company that focuses on financial services. So our main product is what you see at the moment on the screen, which is called the Bloomberg Terminal. And that is software that essentially provides investment professionals with access to all sorts of financial information. And on top of that, then we also offer enterprise data feeds and services that allow customers to get all that data programmatically. Now, Bloomberg's been around for a while, over 40 years now. And while its headquarters are in New York City, it's really a global company. We have 350,000 plus subscribers for our terminal products. And we have about 25,000 employees all around the world. Now, of those, like 9,000 or so are engineers, which kind of speaks to how important technology is for our business. Now, as you can imagine, over those like 40 years, the technology landscape has evolved and grown quite a bit. And it keeps changing today at an even increasing pace. So like, I think we can all agree with this statement, like the only thing that never changes is that everything keeps changing. So I'm going to give you a few examples of big changes that have happened for us inside the company. The first one is the adoption of new programming languages. Bloomberg used to be a big C++ shop, but now like Python's pretty much everywhere. And in the recent years, the same thing has happened with Go, for example, which is becoming a lot more important, especially for those that use Kubernetes or maybe that work in the public cloud space. Another example is the adoption of open source software. So Bloomberg's always kind of been at the forefront of technology innovation. But when the company was first founded, like we actually had to develop a lot of homegrown technology. So we developed our own protocols, our own databases. And like today you might think that that's kind of crazy, but that was the 80s. And at the time, the technology that was available didn't quite solve the problems that we had to solve. But as open source became a lot more popular and we started adopting it, we realized that it actually really helped us scale our system. And so we took a step forward and decided to open source some of our homegrown technologies. So to take an example, I can think about ComDB2, which is one of our databases. We used to use it for a long time, and now it's open source. And we didn't even stop there. Like, we also decided to make available other tools in the Python ecosystem. You might have heard of Memray and PyStack, which are tools that were developed inside Bloomberg, and they're now available to all of you, for all of you to use. AI is very, very popular today. But actually, Bloomberg's been leveraging it and incorporating our products for over 15 years now. And that's really helped all our customers kind of making sense and driving insights, especially from the unstructured data that you have in financial data sets, where it's quite common. So how can you stay at the forefront of innovation in this like ever-evolving technology landscape? You have to really create the right environment for that. You need to create an environment where people can feel safe and actually encouraged to experiment with new technologies. You need to give them the space to get together. You need to give them opportunities to get to know each other and actually share their findings. Because what you really want to do is, clearly you want to avoid duplicating effort, right? But you want people to get together and start defining best practices, which then become the foundation for how a given technology should be used within the organization. And this is really important because when you want to grow adoption of that technology, you need to get management buy-in. And if you've done this, then you can approach them with something that is a lot more concrete than just an idea. And one way to actually do this is through technical communities. You'd say, why communities? What's so special about them? Why are they so effective at fostering innovation? First of all, because we found that as engineers, we're actually intrinsically curious. So we have this strong desire to get to innovate. And so we tend to get together and just to try out new things. But it's not just that, right? Because communities are actually great opportunities for professional growth, especially for those individuals who actually seek to grow into technical leadership roles as opposed to traditional managerial roles. If we look at what we've done at Bloomberg, we actually have 4 different types of technical communities. We have guilds that are communities that are centered around a specific technical topic. We have meetups that are just simple regular gatherings around shared common interests. We have a Reps and Champs program, which is an internal program that's aimed at connecting our infrastructure and application groups. And then we have our community projects, which are essentially a collection of software that our internal developers maintain. The ones on the right-hand side tend to be more internally focused, whereas the ones on the left-hand side tend to be a bit more externally focused. I'm just going to deep dive into each of them, starting with community projects. As I said, this is just a collection of tools that our developers maintain because they help them in their daily roles. The typical examples would be, for example, project cookie cutters, right? They promote the standardization of projects and they make them easier to maintain over time. Or you can have tools that help you create and manage repositories in your source version control system so that they're all set up in a consistent way. You set up privileging and access in the appropriate way according to your desired configuration. So as you can see, we're not talking about production tools here. The focus is mostly on internal technologies and tools that aid the development experience. These things, though, still kind of require resources. Sometimes they require time. They require compute resources to run on, which is the reason why it is important that you still get buy-in, even for something that might seem simple like this. The second example is our Reps and Chunks program. Now, this is a bit different in that this is a rather granular network of developers across the organization. And their role is, as I said before, to connect our infrastructure group with our application teams. Starting from the left-hand side, the tech reps, the reason I say this is granular is that each team in the company would typically have a tech rep. And what is the role of these tech reps? Essentially, it's to bring information back to their team. So they'll have to get familiar and stay up to date with all the latest developments of our technology, especially the internal one, to make sure that everyone in their team is aware of those developments, and they have to advocate for their adoption. What happens then is that they get to preview and test the feature before they're made available for public release, and they'll have to then support their team in answering their questions when they have questions about those technologies. Jumping on the right-hand side, we then have champs. There's a lot less of those because champs are usually those individuals who have been distinguished tech reps for some time, and their role is to actually represent the needs of their teams with infrastructure groups and management. So what a champ would typically do is advocate for best practices, surfacing the technical needs of the team, and work a lot more closely with managers to actually ultimately contribute to define the broader technology structure of the company. Jumping into the more externally focused groups, first one up is meetups. I think this is pretty straightforward. Like the name suggests, these are informal, but they're still recognized gatherings of people around shared technical interests. And the technical bit is key here because for a meetup to be recognized, the topic needs to be technical. But that just doesn't mean programming languages. Just to give you an idea, we would have a meetup focused on agile project management practices, right? Or a meetup focused on technical interviewing. And those would be the folks who help us maintain and evolve our collection of interviewing questions. Meetups are really a great way for people to kind of naturally get together and grow interest around the topic. And like this is actually key because a meetup is effectively an incubator for a technology which might or might not then grow into something bigger. And if it does grow into something bigger, that something would be a guild. So guilds are our actual official communities focused on a specific technical topic. And their goal is to promote the advancement of that technology within the organizations. Guilds tend to be a lot larger than meetups, and they're a lot more structured too. They operate typically across teams, and they do not own any infrastructure. In fact, like a bit like they were historically, guilds tend to be self-managed organizations, and most importantly, they are volunteering-driven organizations. We currently have 13 of those at Bloomberg, and they all run without a product team, with no headcount, and there is no mandated like technical feature roadmap. So how do these guilds actually work? Guilds organize their activities into a number of working groups, and each working group will have a mission and a number of goals that they're trying to achieve. Then, like the stewardship of this working group is a responsibility of the working group leaders, who are typically long-standing members of that group. And then finally, the activities of the various working groups are coordinated by one or two guild chairs. The guild chairs also have like an additional role, which is like coordinating the communication across the various guilds. Now, the nice thing about this organizational structure is that it provides opportunities for individuals to step up into technical leadership roles, right? Like because the guild chairs rotate regularly, and so do the working group leaders, and it's actually not uncommon for new working groups to be created over time as well. Now, remember that this actually only really works because the guilds naturally attract the people who are passionate about that specific topic. So as volunteering-driven organization, everybody that contributes to a guild with their manager's support and approval pretty much decides to dedicate 10 to 20% of their time to guild-related activities. And that is not personal time. Like, that is something that the company actually recognizes and encourages. So what do these people and these working groups actually do? What you see on the screen right now are examples of like areas of focus for guilds, and the ones that you see up there, they tend to be kind of common to pretty much every guild. Collaborative development is typically revolves around open source, inner source, organizing hackathons, and so on and so forth. The conference engagement is about identifying the target conferences for that given topic, managing the sponsorship process, training the speakers, coordinating the attendees while they're on site. When we go to look at cross-department and infrastructure team influence, these are the folks that define internal standards, create best practices around the tooling that they focus on, and finally, like internal presentations are the people that actually run all the internal activities like internal knowledge sharing, lunch and learns, engage with like distinguished speakers to organize keynotes, and even run self-hosted conferences. And it doesn't end there, because then each and every guild will also have working groups that focus on topics that are specific to that guild. If you take the example of Python, all of you, I think, have been through a migration from Python 2 to Python 3 at some point. In our case, we had a working group that was actually dedicated to facilitate that migration within the company. And actually, on that note, I'll now leave the stage to Olga, who'll tell you a bit more about the Python Guild at Bloomberg.
Thank you. So we will dive deeper into the Python Guild, which both Luca and I represent, and it is something very close to my heart. So the Python Guild is one of the largest guilds in the company, maybe the largest, and was created about 10 years ago. At the moment, it has around 20 leaders and many, many members. So here you can see a logo that was created by a former guild leader. Our mission is to foster a Python community at Bloomberg and beyond. We envision a Python community inside the company that is robust and well-networked, and where employees can realize their full potential using Python. So the guild essentially acts as an advocate for Python users within the company. There is also a dedicated engineering team that looks after Python infrastructure, where with the guild collaborates closely. The membership is open, so it's not exclusive to engineering, and we have leaders from other departments as well as members, and we generally welcome everyone from any department. So let's take a look in our activities. We talked previously about working groups, and here you can see some of those that we have in the Python Guild. So these dedicated working groups can focus on topics like training, testing, pragmatic recommendations, or if you want to call it best practices, conference participation, and of course, pep talks, but also many more. As Luca mentioned, we also have working groups that open and close depending on specific projects. So participating in one of those is the effective way to get involved with the Python community in the company. And that participation can take different forms. So that can be code contributions, helping organize meetups, shaping the best practices. Each working group creates space for our engineers to dive deeper into topics they love and contribute in a meaningful way, and also grow as leaders. So we saw different types of communities in Bloomberg. Now let's see some of their achievements. I want to note here that the following achievements are not only the product of solely some people or some specific communities, but it has taken a lot of collaboration and management support to get there. So the first one, which has been spoiled already, Python has become our most used language. It is also a very famous Bloomberg story, how it started from an intern project. So the community wanted to try Python, so there was an intern who was dedicated to bring the first Python interpreter inside the company. And the Python community nurtured this, and it has led to what we have today. So that didn't happen through top-down decisions, but it was a community project. And within 10 years, we see now that Python is the most used tool in the company and has really boosted engineer productivity. We mentioned earlier that communities have also helped creating standards inside the company. And that brings us something that we're very proud of, the Golden Path, which has been a very big achievement, and that wasn't just a walk in the park. So the Golden Path has been a result of collaboration of many teams, departments, and community input. Essentially, it is the paved path on how to build and deploy software inside the company. Instead of every team have their own processes and bespoke scripts, there's company-wide recommendations and support. So this has shown how the company has put more focus and centralized our investment into developer experience. As we said, it's the recommended way to bring your code from development to production. It has streamlined many things. It has reduced friction and eliminated custom scripting, bespoke solutions, and drastically cut down deployment time. So that's good stuff. And the third part is Guild Week. So every year we celebrate all of our achievements and contributions of our tech communities with an annual internal conference. It is one of our main principles and a way to do knowledge sharing. So that is the best way that we can showcase what our passionate engineers have come up with. Some stats about the one that we hosted 3 months ago. We had all different guilds participating, and we had more than 150 events and talks to learn from and ways to connect with other engineers, and we had almost 300 speakers. After seeing some of the big achievements, now let's look how the guild's impact spreads across 3 different pillars. So we're going to see what happens on individual level, on the company level, and on the external community. On individual level, we see like 5 main points. We have faster onboarding thanks to the standard workflows. Our engineers have access to subject matter experts where they can find support, mentorship, ask them for reviews on code or design proposals. We mentioned earlier also there's leadership paths that have been created that go beyond line management, so that is being a guild leader or a champ. It has also increased internal mobility because we have now more cross-org visibility. And that also connects with creating a personal brand, and that can be through internal contributions, open source contributions, and conference talks. Then we have impact on the firm. So we see, again, 4 points here. First one is consolidation. Now that we have shared infrastructure, this has reduced duplicated efforts. This shared infrastructure has helped also create shared best practices, which has increased reliability. We talked about the example of tech adoption through the Python programming language. And finally, we have prioritization for our infrastructure teams when they can take more feedback from our communities now and focus on what is really important for them. And on an external level, this is Team Bloomberg at EuroPython in Prague last year. You see we always send a big delegation of people. And generally, we're very proud to say that we have many engineers who contribute regularly to open source or are also maintainers of popular software projects. We have about, I think, 10 engineers that have co-authored PEPs, and we're sponsoring more than 70 conferences in 2025. And last year, we had more than 250 talks delivered by Bloomberg engineers all around the globe. So when we say internal communities, that also their impact also really spreads outside of the company. So now if you're thinking, this sounds amazing, but how can I build something like this? So we're going to share here what we learned. It comes down to 3 maybe not so simple steps, but let's break them down. First one is start small and make it first. There's no other way. Find a few passionate people, hold regular meetups, and define your mission. And I know this can be pretty big. Get buy-in from your leadership, both to what you're working towards, but also to get this time that you need to allocate. You don't need a massive team or a ton of resources to get going. You just need to start. Once your community gains momentum, that's when you might want to think to start formalizing. So create clear roles, start tracking down metrics to ensure that you're showing progress. Recognize and celebrate your contributors, share their success, and make sure the contributions are visible, even in performance reviews. People are more likely to show up when they know that it really matters. And now, if you have a well-established community, you think you're making change and affecting your company, how can you prove that? Success isn't just vibes. You can track it through metrics. So you can look at the adoption of your shared tools. You can see how much time it takes to resolve issues. Look at how your organization, what kind of people it consists of. Is it just a narrow team of people, or are you affecting a lot of different departments? How visible is your team inside and outside the company? If what you're building is really working, then the data will show it. And if it doesn't show it, then you know that you need to adapt. So we are approaching the end, and here's the short summary of what we saw. So we showcase here the different types of communities inside Bloomberg. We saw their impact in terms of both big achievements and how they have affected individuals, Bloomberg itself, and the external community on a day-to-day basis. So what do we want to walk away with? Here are our key takeaways. Communities foster innovation and growth. We hope we have convinced you there. They build bridges across people, they create leaders, and they consolidate efforts across massive orgs. They make things work better, faster, and let's be honest, they make work more fun. So what is next? If you're already in a community, that's great. Lean in. And if you're not, maybe consider starting one. Even a tiny meetup can grow into something amazing. And if today inspired any of you to start a new group, then that's a big win for us. So thank you for listening. We'd love to hear your ideas, your questions, or your own community stories. This is how we grow as well. So yeah, thank you.
So we have 5 minutes for Q&A. If anyone would like to ask questions, we have 5 minutes. Yeah, here you go.
Thank you. Hello, thank you for this talk, and I value it very much because I am in kind of similar situation, but in a much smaller company than Bloomberg Engineering, So our Python department consists of about 6 people.
Very good.
So, but we're still trying to build something like Guild. And I have a very concrete question. You said you can start with regular meetups or meetings. How regular do you mean? How does it look like?
I think it really varies, right? Like it's not prescriptive. I think it is important that you have a regular cadence because that means that people can expect that things keep happening. But I think, it really depends on what your topic is and what you're trying to achieve. So maybe like at the beginning you might meet a bit more regularly. When people then need to go off and do things, then you might give them a bit more time and regroup at a kind of lower cadence, but you have to do it regularly, and there needs to be somebody that kind of is at the helm, right? And says, yes, I'm going to make sure that this happens, because if you don't have that, then it kind of falls apart. But yeah, it very much depends on your use case, I would say.
Okay, yeah, because there are very small amount of us, we just gather a few times a week.
Yeah, maybe even once a week goes a long way. Don't underestimate it. It's like if you meet every week, it's about 45 a year if you skip holidays and
Yeah. I just thought maybe you mentioned something like not an annual meeting, but like once in months or something.
No, there's some that meet weekly, some of them that we meet every other week, some of them that meet every month. It really depends, right? I would guess something like agile practices, maybe they don't meet every week, or technical interviewing don't meet every week. But also I think it depends on the level of maturity, right? In an incubation phase, they'll meet a lot to get things set up, then they'll probably meet less. If you reach a critical point, like in our case, when a meetup is about to evolve into a guild, then that's where people are gonna really start meeting up a lot to get everything set up to take that next step, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I want to say also something else, that it also happens that we have 2 different types of meetings. So if you have the core members, what we say the leaders, maybe they meet more often, like once per week. But if you want to start opening up to more community meetings, like doing presentations, then you can have those meetings happen once per month, let's say.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, and good luck with that guild. I will pass the mic if there will be more time. I mean, I have another question, but...
Very good.
We can also chat, yeah.
Yeah, you can always catch us later in the hallway. We'll be here.
Thanks for a very insightful presentation. I was curious, within Bloomberg, are you also encouraging the usage and adoption of Python onto, let's say, employees who aren't that technically inclined or not that interested in Python? And what approaches are you taking to really reach the individuals in your company who have a lot of knowledge and a lot of very, just knowledge in the enterprise, and how to get them on board with adoption in Python and getting them enthusiastic? Because of course the people inside of the guild are also very on board with wanting to do Python, but how do you encourage people who might not be too keen on the idea and then to digitize the entire company?
I think that's actually a very good point. So we have a big organization, right? Like I said, we have 9,000 engineers, but there's many other thousands that are not. And especially for a language like Python, it's kind of popular. Is becoming much more popular, especially also amongst non-engineers. And actually, the guild program and the Python guild is very useful in that respect, because people tend to use guild members as reference points. You can expand, for example, imagine people in our data department, people that work with data, they will use Python quite heavily, but they will not have the same access to the production systems that engineers have, for example, for obvious reasons, right? So they will work with their engineering counterparts, but they will also then work with guild members to kind of solve their everyday problems, right? Like maybe their environment looks completely different. It might not be obvious how to run Python in their environment. And then someone will kind of help them out and explain how to get started, get them set up. And that's also a way to grow the community. Like Olga mentioned, like then the members of the guild are not just engineers, because then these people, they use the guild to learn, but then they will also contribute back to the guild to then help their colleagues who struggle in the same way.
We actually have a dedicated working group inside the Python Guild that helps non-engineers get on board with Python and develop their Python skills. So it is something that we look after, yeah.
One more?
Unfortunately, we don't have the time left, but you can always ask after the session.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. You'll find us here.